I'd like to call to order the regular City Council meeting. It's March 24th, 2026. Time is now 7:00 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment's silent meditation. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by none other than Mr. Fitz.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Mayor Scott Nickel.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Adam Dyer.
Here.
Councilmember Susan Ronnie.
here.
Councilmember David Nutt.
Here.
Councilmember Neil Iorio.
Here.
Okay, we're all here. We'll skip on to item number 5, which is additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda, if any. Does anyone in council have any changes or additions? All right, hearing none, I'll sign those in record. Item number 6, presentations, proclamations, and introduction. We have 3 of them. The first one is Arbor Day proclamation. Is there anybody that is here specifically to receive that proclamation?
Annie?
Not any.
You're on the tree preservation.
Or you're on. You get to.
All right. Whereas Arbor Day is an annual observance that celebrates the role of trees in our lives and promotes tree planting and care. And whereas trees provide numerous environmental, economic, and social benefits, including reducing erosion, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderating temperatures, cleaning the air, producing oxygen, providing habitat for wildlife, and sustainable building materials. And whereas the City of Indian Harbor Beach recognizes the value of trees in enhancing the beauty, environmental health, and overall quality of life in our community. And whereas the City of Indian Harbor Beach was recognized as a Tree City USA member city for the 2nd year in a row, demonstrating its commitment to effective urban forest management and environmental stewardship. And whereas the City Tree Preservation Board has worked diligently to plan and host the 4th annual Arbor Day ceremony, ensuring a successful celebration of trees and their importance in our community. And whereas the City of Indian Harbor Beach will celebrate Arbor Day on March 28, 2026 at Gleason Park and encourages all residents to participate in this meaningful event. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Indian Harbor Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 28, 2026 as Arbor Day.
Get a picture.
I guess I'll start.
Item 6B is Water Conservation Month proclamation. Is there anyone here to accept that proclamation? There's none. We will sign that and give that to the appropriate person. Next is item 6C, is Fire Department presentation. Chief Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Today is a very special day for the City of Indian Harbor Beach Fire Department. We're here to celebrate the accomplishments of Jacob Anderson's certification as a Firefighter 1 by the State of Florida Bureau of Fire Standards and Training. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Firefighter Anderson. Jake caught the passion for the fire service from his father, a 40-year veteran who retired as chief at the Des Plaines, Illinois Fire Department in 2024. Jacob joined Illinois Fire Service Institute Cadet Academy and attended the University of Illinois Champaign. In 2021, Jake made the move to Florida to attend the Florida Institute of Technology and received his Bachelor of Science in aviation safety. Jake obtained his commercial pilot's license and is an FAA drone operator. In 2024, Jake became an EMT. In August of 25, Jake found the Indian Harbor Beach Fire Department and seized the opportunity to become part of our firefighter family. We are the lucky ones to have Jake, for sure. We have 3 cherished items to present to Jake this evening. Jake, if you and your family will come forward, please. First, we have the pinning of the firefighter badge. Firefighter badges are powerful symbols of courage, dedication, and enduring commitment to public safety. The tradition of firefighter badges began with volunteer fire companies in the early 19th century. Badges, or shields as they were called, were used in a way to identify authorized firefighters who stood between danger and safety as a way to protect and prevent looting of burning buildings, which were common back in the 1800s. Here to pin Jake tonight is his father, Chief Anderson. We do have EMTs on hand. We got you covered.
Ron blessed out there.
Yes, usually the other way. Next, we have the presentation of the fire helmet. The fire helmet is an iconic symbol of the fire service. It serves as an integral component of our protective ensemble, protecting firefighters' heads against falling debris, projectiles, and thermal injury. It's also a symbol of rank and a sign of respect to the firefighters that have come before us. Jacobius Turk is credited with inventing the first fire helmet in the 1730s in New York. The helmet was handcrafted leather with a high crown and a wide brim. The high crown deflects falling debris, and the long brim channels water and burning embers off the back and down the firefighter's coat. The crest or the front piece shows the department identification and rank. The metal eagle that holds the crest represents pride, courage, and valor. The colors of the helmets are an outward sign of rank and position of firefighters within fire departments. Blue typically identifies our support firefighters, and our trainees, our students, firefighters who are learning and still achieving their certifications and are not allowed to enter burning buildings or any environment that's immediately dangerous to life or health. White is a symbol of a chief officer. These are our command staff who are responsible for achieving the overall incident objectives, crew assignments, and keeping our firefighters safe. Red are our supervisors and company officers. They supervise the engine and truck companies or the groups of firefighters who man the fire apparatus. Black indicates these are our certified firefighters. These are our workhorses, our boots on the ground, firefighters who go inside and fight fire, and our EMTs. With that, I present this black helmet to Firefighter Anderson, our newest certified firefighter. Finally, we have our city's firefighter oath of office for our non-probationary certified firefighters that will be administered by Acting City Clerk Ori Coker.
All right, please raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jacob Anderson,
Do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties of that of a firefighter for the City of Indian Harbor Beach,
that I will faithfully execute the duties of a firefighter for the City of Indian Harbor Beach,
Florida, and will,
Florida, and will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
support, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state of Florida.
support, defend, preserve the
All of it. It's support, preserve, protect, and defend
support, preserve, protect, defend
the Constitution and laws of these United States and of the state of
the
Florida,
Constitution and laws of these United States and the Constitution of Florida,
and the charter and ordinances of the City of Indian Harbor Beach.
and the charter and ordinances of the City of Indian Harbor Beach.
I furthermore solemnly swear
I furthermore solemnly swear
that I will be exemplary in conduct and serve the citizens of our community with integrity. Oh, go ahead.
that I will be exemplary in conduct and serve the citizens of our community
With integrity, compassion, respect, and accountability.
with integrity, compassion, and respect and accountability,
And I will faithfully and impartially discharge all of these duties and responsibilities
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the responsibilities and duties
required of me to the best of my ability.
required of me to my best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Sorry, that wasn't me, did I have to repeat that? Okay, item number 7 is approval of minutes for the regular, first one is for the regular city council meeting, March 10, 2026. Anyone have any changes they'd like to see? Next time is in the record. 7B is joint special city council meeting with Satellite Beach, which was the muck removal project from March 11, 2026. Anyone? Comments, changes? All right, I'll sign those. Next is reports, starting off with city manager's report. City manager Crawford.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, residents here and watching at home. Fire Station Annex project update. The design team's geotechnical subcontractor will be on site later this week to perform soil borings, requiring the closure of the tennis courts that will go into effect tomorrow. We will have the tennis courts reopened as soon as possible. The closure has been posted on social media and at the site. City Hall Baffle Box project update. The contractor is starting to mobilize things. First thing they dropped off was the porta potty, and work is scheduled to commence next Monday. The work schedule, not to jinx us, shows a substantial completion in September. Fiscal year 26 budgeted security camera project update for the expanded portion of Algonquin. Yesterday I signed a proposal from Flock Group for $38,000 for the installation and operation of 2 license plate reader cameras at the 2 entrances to Algonquin and 8 solar powered security cameras, which will be done at the completion of the expansion project. This is an annual recurring cost, but in my opinion, it saves us a lot of money in the long run of trying to maintain our own fiber optic camera system. NEOGOV update. After initially briefing city council members, I signed a proposal from NEOGOV for a web-based HR application tracking and onboarding program at an initial cost of $9,500, which includes setup fees. Annual cost is $12,000. That will help streamline our labor-intensive tracking system and better position us to defend against any frivolous wrongful employment claims. City recently added the TPO's new e-bike safety website link to our city. I've listed in my manager's report all the good information parents and young people can get from clicking a link from our website that takes you to their website. Special magistrate hearing is scheduled for 9 a.m. on May 20th for 213 Kenpucci, dealing with signs, and 375 Hema Drive, exterior building maintenance. Communications manager position, the position closed earlier this month with 12 applicants. 9 will receive telephone interviews later this week, with on-site interviews planned for mid-April. As I reported at the last meeting, we had received a closeout check for the DEP ARPA funded projects, but it was addressed to the wrong payee. So I'm glad to report that we received the correct check in the amount of $1.5 million that Comptroller Dolan deposited to city accounts closing out those projects. The February Revenue and Expenditure reports are attached. Additionally, Waste Management notified me last week that they had a calculation error in their CIP increase for 2026. The correct rate is 4.33%, which will be effective April 1. They are not going back to retroactively collect what they underbilled from their perspective. Legislative session update. Special session is anticipated to start sometime in mid-April to finalize the budget and deal with tax reform. The special session is scheduled on April 20th to start for congressional redistricting. The tracker is attached. Upcoming items for the next meeting include the annual school resource officer funding MOU, fire department staffing proposal, MOU with City of Satellite Beach regarding the MUC project, the piggyback contract for engineering services related to the MUC project, and a minor staffing reorganization proposal and revised employee pay and classification plan. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is City Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Towards the end of last week, I called the city attorney for the City of Satellite Beach regarding the muck removal agreement. We have a working agreement, and he is reviewing the draft, and I'm just waiting for him to respond back to me so we can get that thing moving. But just suffice to say, we have something in the works, and just trucking along. To get it done and in final form before we can present it to each respective council. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next is council comments. Start with our deputy mayor.
Nothing to comment.
Councilmember Ronnie.
Last week I attended the Attract FPL Regional Symposium, and basically FPL is trying very hard to bring costs down and keep innovation up. It was pretty interesting. Tomorrow at 3:30, everyone's invited. There's going to be an unveiling of a veteran statue at Gleason at 3:30, so I hope we'll see you there. And then I just want to follow up from the city manager's report. I happened to find myself this weekend sitting with 4 people that live near the signs on Timpucci. And while they very much appreciate the homeowners' efforts to patrol, it seems this weekend that some of the signs have reached a new level about incest and death and whatnot. So I didn't realize the earliest was May 20th, but John, is there a way to possibly bump that up? Because it seems to be going higher and higher with these signs.
The reason it's May 20th, that's the first date City Attorney Bone and the Special Magistrate could meet.
Might there be a way to push it up a little? Because it's really out of control, the new signs that have gone up.
The problem is we'd have to, well, assuming there is another date, which I don't think there is, but we'd have to do a new notice of violation, a new notice of hearing, send out certified mail, and give him time. So probably not practical to do so. It looks like that's the earliest we're going to be able to do it. And I just want to make it very clear to everybody. I cannot regulate the content of a sign, okay? We cannot do that. So, what we're going after is what our sign code says you can and cannot do with regard to size, amounts, and location of signs. So I understand that these are horrible signs, but we cannot control the content.
Okay, thanks, Clay.
Yes.
Councilmember York.
I had a similar question about the magistrate hearing schedule too, but Susan had already asked that. But, you know, given the heartbreaking testimony that we received from Mrs. Rice at the last city council meeting and the escalation of this particular individual's communications, to be polite, I think warrants our efforts to address this sooner than later. And that's the question, so I'm not gonna, I realize we've already answered that, we're partly answered that. The second thing I have is, I want to remind everybody that we have an Arbor Day celebration this Saturday here at Gleason Park. And there will be a ceremonial tree planting of a beautiful pigeon plum, which is a Florida native tree. And we also were able to secure 10 plants of 5 different species, so 50 total of native Florida, ultimately will be trees or large bushes. So I encourage everybody here to attend the Arbor Day celebration, show your proof of residency to Indian Harbor Beach, and you receive a free native tree for your yard.
Councilmember Nutt.
I want to reiterate the Veteran Memorial dedication, and as a veteran, I'm going to tell you right now, what Councilmember Ronnie has done is amazing. She stuck to her guns. She knew exactly what she wanted to do, and what she did was amazing. She actually went above and beyond it, and I can't thank her enough.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Brevard County. They came out last Monday that we discussed with residents with the pump station. I'm almost positive that almost every single resident walked away feeling a little bit more at ease about the situation and being educated about what's going to happen with the possibility of the pump station going in and the storage tank. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. And I do not have anything, so we will move along to public comments. This is for non-public hearing agenda items only. So if you're, for instance, if you're here tonight to talk about the boat/trailer parking, then now's a good time for you to come up and speak. I did notice that Mr. Allspaw's here tonight, so probably be better for you to speak now versus after we're done with that item.
All right, Todd Oswald, 1214 Yacht Club. Am I the only one speaking on it tonight?
It's the only card I have. That doesn't mean somebody else might not want to get up and speak. So.
I did take a look at the proposed changes or new ordinance or whatever. I know some parts it was highlighted yellow to leave out the size yet, but then one area in black it was saying 24 foot, not to exceed 24 foot, including the engine or the outdrive and the trailer. That essentially regulates somebody pretty much to a boat under 17 foot, so take that into consideration. That'll basically mean you can only have a John boat with those kind of regulations. And the average boat, if you look it up, the average boat in Indian Harbor Beach is 21 to 26 foot in that range. When you add trailer, you're talking, engine, well, prop trailer tongue, you're talking over 30 feet, so 30 to 36 foot there. 32-foot boat, for example, the trailer all the way to the tongue, you're usually talking 42 to 47 feet. So be careful with that size of 24 foot. That's basically, like I said, a John boat on a trailer. I would say just keep that in there that you can't block the public easement, you know, you can't block sidewalks, etc. But a lot of people's driveways, you know, also can't fit a boat without blocking the driveway. So now flipping to the improved surface that you guys have on there, you have a statement about, I think like concrete, something else, or I took a screenshot of it. Let me look at my screenshot.
Gravel or pavers?
I didn't say, that's why I was gonna bring it up.
It says paved, concrete or paved surface is what it says.
Yeah, so I just wanna make a comment that not to leave it just as concrete or paved surface, because then you have, I don't know the rules on that, but I think it's gotta be 4 to 8 feet off the property line or something, so then essentially no one would be able to comply with that. Gravel can be closer, so as long as like gravel or coquina or whatever is allowed, some kind of improved surface, but don't just make it only concrete or asphalt. And that's pretty much all I had on that. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Bring it.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Just looking for the lady right now.
Kevin Hayes.
Yes. Kevin Hayes, 2 Yacht Club Lane. Just like to touch on the subject matter a little bit. I know this is strictly a draft on the watercraft and boats. But what I'd like to bring up is maybe has the city council thought about those people that have RVs? Is this going to start opening a can of worms with everyone having different issues? Is this going to be a whole other draft for each item? The other thing is, you know, there were a lot of passionate speakers that I guess maybe had write-ups for having some boats, you know, not in compliance. How would the city address those people who comply? How do you make those people whole that spent money for storage and making improvements to store their boats? And that's all I have, just some thoughts to think about. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this or anything else you would like to? There will be another public forum at the end, but again, that'll be once these items are done and decided.
Can I speak briefly? I'm sorry, I didn't get to sign up yet.
Do you need to fill out a card? Speaker card?
Thank you so much. Adam Azar, 215 Atlantic Boulevard. I want to thank the City Council very much for putting so much time and effort into hearing our voices and trying to come up with some type of compromise on this issue. We really do appreciate that, and that's what makes our town special. And again, we are, as the last gentleman who just spoke is from Yacht Club Drive, you know, we really have a lot of boating identity in this town, and we appreciate that you've taken that into consideration, and we do want guidelines to follow. I also reviewed the draft, as Todd did, and everything looked pretty fair in there. And I think, you know, just like any ordinance, there's always going to be difficulties enforcing it, but I think you guys are really on to the right path here, and we appreciate it. Just wanted to touch on and reiterate what Todd said, is that 24-foot total with your trailer makes it a really small boat, because trailers have tones and props, and so like if you have a 20-foot boat, you may be, you know, a lot more than that with your trailer. You know, maybe think about you know, how far it is from the road, things like that. Another thing is that not everybody can afford to pave a new driveway, so maybe just consider, you know, what type of improvements may be allowed that the city deems to be appropriate. And again, we really appreciate all the efforts from the council. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? No. Now we'll move along to unfinished business, item number 9, which is 9A is continuance of tabling of first reading ordinance number 2026-04, which is tall grass and wildflowers. I think the idea is to potentially table this until the Tree Preservation Board comes up with language on this. What I'd like to do is do just that. It's instead of this coming up every single council meeting, we don't know when the Tree Preservation Board is going to have that language draft done for us to consider. So I'd say we just continue it until such time, and then it'll reappear on the agenda. So any comments from council on this item?
I have one comment on this. So I attended the last Tree Preservation Board meeting, and there was robust discussion on this particular topic, and I think the Tree Preservation Board members and the chairman did a great job of outlining the concerns and the issues. So I would expect that we would be receiving some very well thought out options for implementing or not a ordinance amendment.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to table the first reading of the ordinance number 2026-04.
To hear,
Until we hear from the Tree Preservation Board about their suggestions that we may or may not approve.
They're going to be busy until after the ARPA Day.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Nutt, a second by Councilmember Ronnie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, on to item 10. First item 10A under new business is review draft ordinance 2026-07. See you guys later.
Be safe, please.
This dispatches free
All right, I'll state that again. To review of draft ordinance number 2026-07, which is watercraft and watercraft storage. We'll remind everybody this is a discussion only. We're just reviewing the draft language that's been presented to us. Ultimately, assuming we can agree upon language that needs to be included or changed, this will have to go back to Planning and Zoning Board and then come back to council for first and second reading at some point. So, with that said, we'll start with the Deputy Mayor Dyer. Any comments he might have?
does everybody have the latest version? Because I had conversations with the mayor late this afternoon, and we came up with it's the one that says, all right, just wanted to make sure you all had that. And the red is what basically the mayor and I discussed, and we got it as best as we could into a new ordinance, and I do believe there are some suggestions from Mr. Nutt, but I'll let him bring those up during this.
And I will say, I will say that my comments were primarily had to do with just tightening things up a bit, making them very as clear as my brain could make them be, and to just provide a little more clear foundation for things. But that's really it. Wasn't a ton of comments that were made. Those are shown in red on what you have before you. So with that, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, as the previous speakers spoke about earlier, I had two of those down to bring up as well, because I know that typically like a 21-foot boat with outboard trailers more like 28, 30 feet total. So I would recommend modifying the language to potentially be strictly to vessel size or trailer size, one or the other, depending on what the average calculation is for tongue, trailer length, and outboard, like potentially 35, 40 feet, or it's strictly to the vessel size, max vessel size of 26 feet. Some sort of language to do that. And also, I would like the addition of the improved surface and with, spelling out like what an improved surface would be, gravel, pavers, coquina, i.e. or to, some sort of improved surface, not just, weed whack grass down to sand, stuff like that. And to the other comment, the RVs are going to be a separate issue here, so this is just for watercraft. Other than that, I think the ordinance looks pretty good. The one vessel, if it can't fit on the side, I agree with that, not blocking any sidewalks or not impeding on the easement setback from the road. But I think we've done well here as a city, listening to the residents, done our due diligence, and I think we came up with a pretty good product. And I want to appreciate everybody who's been along this process the entire way, and thank you for continuing showing up. So thank you.
Councilmember Ronnie.
I agree. I think the ordinance is looking really good. Also, I guess my question was the average size of the boat, because that makes sense what people have been saying. But do we know what the average driveway size is in Indian Harbor Beach? No? Okay, just wondering. But yeah, I think this is looking great, and it's listening to what the residents want.
Okay. I'll go ahead and comment now, I guess. So I agree with the concerns about you got the boat, you got the trailer, you got the motor, you got all this extra stuff, so to speak, or distance. It probably would make a lot of sense just to change this to, instead of including the trailer, make it to where the boat size, there should be a maximum boat size. And if that's 26 feet, what have you, that to me makes a lot of sense to do it that way. Trailers can be different. There's a lot of differences there, and I think it makes sense to just be consistent with the boat size. At least to me, that's what makes sense. As far as the surface goes, my only concern with having an alternate surface is the condition that it'll be in. So if we're going to lean towards allowing alternative surfaces, crushed coquina, pavers, whatever it might be, I think we need to make it clearer in here about the required maintenance and upkeep of it. It needs to be whatever, weed and grass free and maintained in that manner in perpetuity. I just don't want to see, we've all seen, not everywhere, we've all seen examples of that where people don't take care of it, and then you get grass growing up underneath the trailer and up in the wheels and everything else, and the person doesn't use the boat ever, and it just sits there. And that is an eyesore, in my opinion anyway. So I'm kind of, I could be flexible in my mind with the paving materials or the driveway material. I think one of the comments was about the concern about having a side setback for driveways. It's my understanding that the building official looked into that and that there are no side setback requirements for paved driveways. So that's not a concern, but I understand the cost concern as well. So, I want to make it clear that in my mind anyway, this is, you get one boat with a trailer. It's not one boat with a trailer and a trailer. So it's just, and it has to be on the trailer all the time. Tires need to be inflated, all of those nice things to make it look nice, and it has to be covered as well. So those are my comments. Councilmember Jordan.
I am going to be the dissenting voice here so far, and I prepared some notes, so please bear with me. Some of it you have already heard before, and I'm sure nobody is going to be surprised with what I'm about to say. So the city has long maintained an ordinance prohibiting the storage of boats in front of residential properties for good reasons. It protects neighborhood character, aesthetics, property values, overall quality of life, and it's consistent with recreational equipment, which includes boats and RVs, ordinances in surrounding communities. While opinions on this issue are divided, a lack of complaints should not be mistaken for support. Despite several residents voicing their objections at recent council and planning and zoning meetings, many residents choose not to raise their concerns in order to preserve good relationships with their neighbors. Their silence does not mean they aren't affected or not concerned. Therefore, there's a significant number of residents who are objecting to this amendment. You may have heard the saying, good fences make good neighbors. Well, I'll expand on that saying, good ordinances make good neighbors too. If this ordinance amendment is adopted, it would effectively open the door for residents to rent out their driveway for boat storage, much like short-term rentals, creating a new unregulated commercial use within our residential neighborhoods. By way of example, there's nothing stopping a resident from placing an ad in Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace offering to Airbnb their driveway to anyone in the world to store their boat. Keep your boat in my driveway for $100 a month, the ad will say. Hey, and $100 is $100. And with the affordability crisis going on today, who couldn't use a little extra cash? Moreover, there's a tremendous opportunity for abuse as there is potentially a robust market of takers in the surrounding communities alone. In Indian Harbor Beach, we have already seen how limited control over short-term rentals has impacted the quality of life and attracted outside investors seeking to take advantage of those gaps. Allowing this change would certainly lead to a similar outcome, with properties being used for income generation rather than as homes. Once that precedent is set and widely known, it will be difficult to contain. The impact to our neighborhoods will only grow. Once such a change is made, it will be difficult to reverse. In other words, it's going to be difficult to put this genie back in the bottle. So the city is not taking anybody's right away. This is an existing ordinance that we have begun to enforce. The ordinance has been in place for a long time. It's upholding a fair and standard, reasonable and fair standard for all residents in the city. So as the city council, we're required to represent and serve to the best of our ability all residents of IHB for the greater good of our city. So for these reasons, I will not support the amendment. Thank you.
I do want to clarify something. So, just because I talk about the ordinance and the language in the ordinance and what I would like to see for wording and clarification, this isn't an absolute indicator that I'm for this. This is what I'm going to vote for. Again, this is for discussion. It's simply to get the best language that we can in the form of an ordinance. Whether or not it gets approved, that remains to be seen. Again, it has to go back before P&Z. We value the P&Z board's input very much, and it's a wait and see. Let's see what more information comes about from them, their recommendations as well, and then ultimately, yes, it's going to come back before City Council for a vote. But I just want to be very clear on that. One of the things you mentioned was, that's a good point about potential little side business type of thing. I would want some language put in the ordinance that says that the boat must be registered to the owner of the home or the tenant of the home. Cannot be just a random boat that a friend decides to bring over and store at your house. So I would want the language included to that effect to help protect against something like that. So that's it. Sorry about that.
No, I'm glad you said it, spoke up. And that's exactly right. I think that with the ordinance as it is, it does still allow, it's not taking away anybody's right from having a boat. I will agree with Todd about the length of this. I'm going to be all over the board on this because I'm not a fan of actually changing this or amending it, but if I'm boxed in a corner and if it's going to pass, I want to make sure that there's some language in there that's going to at least restrict it from the guy on Pine Tree or Banana River with a 20-foot sailboat in the air and 30 feet long. That kind of an eyesore is ridiculous, and he did it as a statement. He said it himself. So the 24 feet, our current ordinance does not include the tongue. If it's stored on the side of the house, it does not include the tongue. It's only the boat. So your tongue can actually stick out beyond the house. So that's how I read it, and that's how I understand it. So I agree with it being the length of the boat and not the totality of it. there needs to be a distance of right-of-way. So something needs to be off away from the right-of-way, meaning it's not impeding on the sidewalks or anything like that, or that it's, you have to understand the right-of-way, that's not your property. And we've already went through that issue when it came to our sidewalk widening. So you've got to be off of that. If you have the capability of actually storing the watercraft on the side of the house, you must do it. This does not give you the permission to put it out front. There has to be a height restriction. I know that they have towers in some of them, but they also have to be able to go under some bridges as well. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be restrictions there. I think 14 feet's about it. And the paved, I'm not a fan of anything of having to make sure that we're regulating that they're keeping up with the coquina in order to store the boat on anything. It needs to be on an improved surface, whether it be paved or actual concrete, period. But, like I said, I've already driven around the city quite a bit. I've took my snapshots and got an idea of who's doing right and who's not. There are people that do have a boat that is in their driveway. There's no way that they can put it on the side of their house. Few and far between. Few. I have a lot of residents that I represent that are against this, that aren't standing here, just like he said, that aren't going to speak up. I will. You're going to have to admit, with the amount of people that show up, this is the most amount of people we've seen come to our meetings on any particular item, when you should be here every city meeting, because you need to know what we're doing. But it gets a little heated, and some of the outbursts and the comments that are off the 3-minute mark of you being able to speak. So it kind of discourages other people from actually wanting to come here and speak in opposition. So you have to know that. But like I said, my back's put in the corner. I want to make sure there's some language in there that's going to restrict this as much as possible. And also, I agree with the mayor when it comes to the boat ownership. And I also agree with Councilmember Iorio that this will be a hard genie to put back in the bottle if it kind of escalates after this. Because we're going to start seeing more people get their boats out of storage that are able to afford to have it in storage. And they're going to start putting them in their front driveways. And it's just going to escalate from there. Now, I will say that I've done as much research as possible, but there is no beachside city, not across the causeway stuff, not in another county. I don't want to hear about it from anywhere else. This is our island, and this is what I'm referring to. Does not allow for anything of this. Is there?
I called and spoke with the lady in Cocoa Beach, there is.
Cocoa Beach allows it on the side. They don't allow it.
No, 8 feet back from the curb and 26 foot or smaller. I specifically talked to her, plus I found the ordinance online.
Thank you.
And it's about what's registered about the boat, to the tag basically. So if your boat's registered for a 26-foot boat, that's how they go about it.
I appreciate you correcting me. Thank you.
Thank you.
But like I said, if I'm in my back in the corner, I want to make sure we have our own set regulations on this that aren't going to at least allow this to open up and become worse than what it needs to be. Because we've already gone down this road with the RVs. The RVs is a big issue, and we've had that, and I don't want to have to go down that road again either. That ordinance is in place, it's already established, and nothing's going to change that as far as I'm concerned. I'll be dead set against that ever coming back and being amended, period. But that's where I'm at.
Okay. So, any more comments?
Just a couple follow-up items. I'd agree, good point on potentially making it so it's based off of tied to the owner of the home. Also, the height is a good idea as well. And I just want to remind everybody that every ordinance is always going to be reevaluated moving forward. So as far as escalation or genies and bottles or backing into corners, obviously we can always modify it down the road, and obviously everything's on a trial basis. But I think this is a good product moving forward.
Okay.
So I think that where we stand right now, and hopefully we can reach you know, we're not voting on this per se, but the boat length, I think we're trying to transition to boat length as opposed to.
Can I comment on that
Go ahead.
real quick? All right, so if the portion of your driveway, which is not in the public right of way, basically from, we'll call it the sidewalk to the front of the house, is 20 feet, you can't put a 35-foot boat.
That's correct. You
Okay, I
can't-
just want to make
yeah,
sure
you-
we all understand.
Yeah, you covered that in the language. in
Yeah,
the
no, I
language.
just want to make sure that just because we're saying 35
Yeah.
feet doesn't mean you can put a 35-foot boat there if it doesn't meet
That's
that
correct.
setback.
It's got to meet the setback. There's also a line of sight
Sure,
criteria there as
correct.
well. So you may not even put any boat there. It just depends on your own situation for your lot. But
So
yeah,
basically, what you're saying is that not everybody's gonna be able to
Correct.
meet the standards because of their property.
Well-
And at the same time, you have to understand that whatever may be written and may be approved may not fit your situation. So that's the compromise. That's the give and take as far as I'm concerned, if it happens.
Yeah, we can't accommodate everybody, there's no way to do that, I think that's pretty clear. But, so we have the length, and we'll tie that to the boat. Again, we're just trying to tighten up this draft language, so that it can be considered by P&Z and then come back to us eventually, and then ultimately we'll make a vote on this stuff.
I think also, we'll need some language in there that also addresses how we determine whether or not a boat can fit on the side of somebody's house. Because that would be a criteria with which would put somebody in the category of, I have a boat that doesn't fit on the side of my house, and therefore I have to put it on the driveway. I don't know if that's clear in here yet or not.
I mean, it says it right there.
How does it, but yeah, you need to have something that's definitive that determines that.
So they can actually have
Cannot
a,
fit.
It has to be objective, not subjective.
so you're saying that if there's a fence on there, but yet there's room, they need to make special, reasonable accommodations to make that fence into a open gate so they can put it there.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, because, you know, I Google Earth everybody's house who came and spoke at the last couple meetings, and there's several instances of people who could accommodate a boat on the side of their house, the boat that they have on the driveway. So, you know, there are opportunities for people to comply with the existing ordinance, and if we're discussing having a variance or an amendment that allows that somebody has determined objectively that someone cannot fit the boat on the side of their house, that would be where that, one of the areas in this amendment addresses is if a boat cannot fit on the side of their house. So that would be, I think, something that we'd want to put some tighter language on.
And also, Mayor Nickel, did you want to, should we suggest the height?
Yeah,
for girl to-
yes, I want to get to that. So it's the boat length, seeing if we can come up with some language, objective language related to the ability to fit a boat on the side of the house, which to me is pure measurement. It's the width of their trailer and distance between the side of their house and the common side lot line or fence line. That's the only way I can see how we would be able to do that, but perhaps get some language in there about that. Height restriction, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I agree. I don't, having a fishing boat with a big old tower on it and everything else, I think that needs to be controlled. Needs to be registered to the owner of the home. And then there's the question of whether it's paved or if it gives relief or allows for some form of stabilized surface. So the paved or stabilized is still a question. It sounds like it's up in the air amongst council. So that wording should be highlighted. Height restriction should be highlighted as well. And the boat length, the actual length of the boat, the maximum that we'll allow should probably be highlighted as well. In my head right now, if this were to move forward, I wouldn't want to see anything a boat longer than, say, 26 feet. Because we're talking about an awful lot of space once you add all those other portions to it, the engine, the tongue, etc. Yeah, it's quite long.
Yeah, I agree with 26.
So that needs to still be a question mark. and perhaps our planning and zoning board can offer their opinions and guidance on that as well, what they would recommend.
Would you want staff to put 26 feet in it and let them
Put
beat it? Okay.
Yeah, put it in, I think, and that makes some sense.
You can highlight it.
There you go.
Height
I think 14 should be good.
from the ground.
Ground,
Yeah.
from the ground, as measured from the
That's the
ground.
average, like, overhanging bridge, is that correct?
What is the average?
Clearance?
Depends where
I
you
have
are.
to check, because most of the boats around here are bay boats with T-tops, so I gotta double check depending on if
I
it's.
think they're like 13 foot.
I would say,
Yeah, I'm
about
thinking
14, 15 foot.
I agree with the 14 feet. Let's put in 14 feet, for now, again, draft language.
Highlight it.
But highlight it.
And figure it out.
I mean, you highlight that, then that can be ironed out, or not. I think that's it, as far as,
We got, again, registered to the owner or tenant of the property. And we need language concerning definition of it being fitted on the side. Figure out what that is. I'm not so sure I heard
Well, I think one
a
of the,
consensus.
I think one of the concerns that I had regarding how you measure or determine whether it can fit on the side of your house, the homeowner can say it doesn't fit on the side of my house, and therefore I'm gonna park it on the driveway. So we have to have some way of verifying
An
that.
objective criteria.
Exactly,
yeah.
objective criteria. But the other thing too is, when I look at some of these, when I've driven by and looked at houses that have a boat in front of their house on the driveway, they have a side yard with a fence there, that if the fence were moved back, or a gate put where the fence is, they would fit. So it's a matter of making some small modifications to the property to increase the number of people to be compliant with the ability to park it on the side of their house versus the front of the house.
My concern with that is that, and I'm all for, if they can do it, they need to do it, but it has to be a reasonable accommodation, because some of these houses have their AC units on there. I don't want them having to go through the expense of having to move their AC out.
right, but that plays into the.
That's where I want the
clearance.
language to tighten up on.
The horizontal clearance that's available, that would include any permanent protrusions.
Yes.
And that would not necessarily include a fence. It's, like you said, an air conditioning unit.
That would not be.
Something that is much more permanent than a fence. So I think that can be included in there. And it's, if we want to say the width of the trailer plus a foot on each side as your basis for measurement as to whether it can fit or not, that's probably not an unreasonable thing. So you gotta have a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of maneuvering room to be able to get the boat back into that space. So maybe that's the criteria. And this is frankly only gonna come down to where it's questionable and where code enforcement sees, small boat, and it looks obviously visually something that could fit on the side of the house, and that's when you get into the measuring game.
Yeah, that would have been my only recommendation, would be the physical measurement of the trailer, but also, like you said, Mayor, is some wiggle room, because some people are better at backing boats up, so you don't want to make it too tight.
I understand.
A foot on each side.
But with just realistically speaking, I mean, if you give, that was 5 feet on each side, well, nobody's got.
Reasonable, yeah.
Not many,
foot on
nobody
each side.
has that much room on the side of the house. Not very many people put it that way, so. Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at with
The
those.
surface now.
Excuse me?
What about the surface?
Yeah.
That's still a highlighted question. To me, I would put in there, paved or stabilized, highlight stabilized, and in maybe parentheses could be, crushed coquina.
Improved, maintained.
Crushed coquina, not pine bark, not dirt.
Pavers.
Pavers, and it should be bordered with something that's.
Gravel?
Yeah, gravel, coquina, pavers.
Potentially gravel, yeah.
Concrete.
With maintenance,
Crushed concrete.
with maintenance
Yes,
language.
maintenance lanes,
Maintain,
absolutely,
yes.
absolutely.
All right.
But that'll get us hopefully to the next step. Again, I understand you're not in favor of it, and it's But it gets us to the next step. It gets it to P and Z, it allows them to offer their opinions on it and give us a recommendation. So.
And for the audience that I'm making a lot of fans with tonight, I'm only one vote, right? So I'm representing, we are all representing the city, and it's our best interest. And I actually appreciate the fact that we have differing opinions and perspectives on this. And the benefit of the city council is to bring all of those differing perspectives and opinions together to come up with a solution, right? So I'm not anti-vote at all, but I am for some of these other things that were identified by those who have been voicing opposition to it. So I'm trying to help represent that portion of our community.
Can y'all clarify a procedure thing for me? What is P and Z? And then does it have to be unanimous vote to get any ordinance passed, or just everybody has to vote yea or nay, or how's all that?
So, all right, so I'll answer the one question, but we can't have the back and forth like this per se. But so the Planning and Zoning Board, this is what it'll get kicked to. They'll draft revised language on here with appropriate highlights on it. There is a question or concern, and that will go to the Planning and Zoning Board. That's a public meeting that will be a regularly scheduled meeting. I don't know what the date, the time frame would be on something like this, but it would go to them. They would hold their meeting, have their discussion, and then vote and make their recommendations on it. Does not have to be unanimous. If it's 3-2 and they vote in favor of adopting the language as presented, then it's just a recommendation. They're a recommending board. They don't make a determination on the ordinance. They make a recommendation to council. So then once that happens, once they've had their meeting, then there will be a city council meeting, much like what you've been to before, like you are right now. But it'll be the first reading of ordinance number XYZ, and that's when we'll have this meeting. There'll be public input. There'll be this discussion. I know we've done this a bunch of times, but again, we want to get this right as we possibly can anyway. So it'll come before us, we'll vote on it, and then there'll be a second reading of the ordinance a couple weeks after that. And that will be the public hearing, officially a public hearing, although I've been allowing on this particular item and some of the more controversial items, I allow for public input, even though it's not technically a public hearing. Again, we want to hear your voice, we want to hear your opinions. Myself, I can't speak for my fellow council members, much like maybe you folks out there. Sometimes you hear new things, you don't think about it. Somebody brings it up. Councilmember Nutt brings up the height issue. Wasn't even thinking about it. But that's a valuable bit of information that needs to be included in the ordinance. So that's the general process of it. And then once we vote on it, it's just a majority vote on something like that. So it could be a 3-2, it could be a 5-0, whatever. So, okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, Carl, you got it
Yes, sir.
squared away in your mind?
Sure.
Okay. Item 10B, this is discussion of fiscal year 27 stormwater utility assessment rate and notification to Brevard County. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to an interlocal agreement with Brevard County adopted last year, if the city desires to consider increasing the stormwater utility rate for fiscal year 27, the city has to notify Brevard County no later than March 31st of this year. On February 24th, at the budget kickoff meeting, I presented anticipated future projects and recommended assessment rates, including keeping next year's rate at the $90 a year rate, which would yield approximately $426,000 gross receipts. If the council is inclined to notify Brevard County that they may want to increase the rate, doesn't mean you have to, but tonight if you say you're not going to increase the rate, you will not have that ability going forward. Based on the February 24th discussions, I recommend you authorize staff to notify Brevard County of the intent not to increase the stormwater utility rate for fiscal year 27.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as much as I would like to generate more money for stormwater utility assessments, I think we need to pump the brakes on it for fiscal year '27. I would like to see that slowly start to increase as we get a little further along though, because these projects are mandated that we have to pursue in order to keep up with water quality standards, and they're not getting any cheaper. And these rates have been in effect for a long time. I would like to see them increase at some point, but little by little we need to do it, get people acclimated to it. I know we all don't like to have increased costs for things, but you know, we have the potential property tax thing that might be on the ballot this year. And if it is, and if it passes, that's going to strain us considerably. And you know, we have to figure out ways to fund things. Again, for next year, I say we pump the brakes on it. Following years, I think we have to look at generating more revenue to pay for some of these projects because they are incredibly expensive. The baffle box that they're about ready to do. John, what's the cost of the baffle box?
$1.1 million.
Okay, that gives you an idea. Very, very expensive. Now we have grant monies to help offset that, but it's not 100% match. So the city does have to cough up money for these projects, and they are not cheap. So that's my 2 cents on that. Deputy Mayor?
I would agree, you know, the cost of a baffle box is constantly going up, and typically it's 50%, you know, grant. But I think in the future we are going to have to increase a little bit to deal with some of these stormwater issues and prevent the water running into the lagoon. But 100% agree that with the uncertainty with the property tax moving forward, we can just lock it in as the current rate, and then we obviously adjust it every year moving forward. So revisit it next year.
Councilman Ronnie?
I echo what Adam just said and also agree it should stay at this rate. Sorry. We're good. Okay.
Councilmember Yoria?
I concur with the mayor and the other council members' comments regarding raising the rate, but I do have a couple questions. The first is, in the description here, the background information, it says it was raised to $750 a month or $90 a year for in FY26 and maintained the same in FY27. Is that correct?
Correct.
What was it in FY25?
Give me just
I'm just curious to see what we went from to where we're at now, what that ramp looked like. And then the other question, I guess, might be part of the same first one was, how does that compare to other municipalities' rate?
in 25, it was $72 a year, and at that point, we were in the bottom 50%.
Okay.
When we went to $750 last year, we were like right in the middle of
Okay.
rates. Satellite's rate is almost double our rate.
Okay, thank you, John. And I'll echo the comment that Deputy Mayor Dyer said, and that our focus on investing in these stormwater projects is extremely important for the maintenance of the water quality of the Indian River Lagoon. So we have invested a lot of money recently, taxpayer dollars, in doing a muck removal project. And so the muck comes from stormwater runoff primarily. So by addressing the source of the problem at the same time we're dealing with the problem, I think it's the right way to go.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nutt?
I'll make it easy. I agree with everything that Mayor Dyer said, and we're moving forward in the right direction.
Okay, with that, I entertain a motion.
I move that we maintain the existing rate as recommended by staff.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Yorio, second by Councilmember Nutt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, item 10C, Pine Tree Drive and Banana River Drive traffic study findings. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this year, a request of a resident City Council directed staff to hire a traffic consultant for low-level analysis of Pine Tree Banana River Drive intersection area. We received the attached traffic study on March 11th. I have excerpted their recommendations. I do have copies, Mr. Mayor, of your markup, if you would like to share that at some point.
Sure.
That staff has not had the opportunity to cost out these changes yet. The staff requests direction from City Council how to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll start off. I reviewed the study. It was prepared by Laster Transportation Group. They're a pretty well-known transportation engineering company, and they do a lot of work here in Brevard County. They looked at not just the intersection, but the approach to the intersection, in particular the eastbound and westbound directions for both Banana River Drive and Pine Tree Drive. And the upshot is that, read between the lines a little bit, based on the recommendations, is that approach, in particular, would be the eastbound Banana River and Pine Tree up to the four-way stop, and then the westbound crossing over the eastbound Banana River Drive traffic it's just not functional. And they've recommended installation of basically the markers as traffic PVC tubes that stick up from the pavement. They get affixed to the pavement to essentially cut off the eastbound movement on Pine Tree Drive to come to where it currently does. Do we have anything that the audience can look at? Because words are going to be difficult.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you have a visualizing and show it.
Yeah, because you guys are going to be twisted around in your head listening to me talk about this. But so, all right. So let me see if I can describe this a little more clearly on what they're recommending.
Maybe we kind of pass those types around.
Okay. All right.
Or you can go make more copies.
Wanna make some coffee? Yeah, please make some coffee.
I was hoping to have
Once they have yeah, it's tough to describe it words.
Yeah, I had to read like this.
It's got a lot going on.
Oh, So folks will take a 5-minute recess while copies are made, so you guys can have a picture in front of you. So, of course, 5-minute recess and reconvene.
Good call.
Good call.
I didn't really have to turn
I just hope no one's ever driving in trees. That's what I don't know what
Gentlemen wouldn't like one of these, would you?
I never saw it like twice the price of fertilizer.
So that would be interesting to see how
That's what I heard it is.
Always get to battle. Can you rejoin us, please, sir?
Throw something at it.
Oh, yeah, with a freeze?
Throw something.
All right, flash that because it's coming to the floor. All right, so reconvene city council meeting. All right, now that you all have pictures in front of you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So, starting with the eastbound Pine Tree Drive movement, the recommendation is essentially to redirect the traffic to the current cut-through, and that's where the mailbox is, as we all know it is. To redirect it to there, from that point you either go east on Banana River or west on Banana River. no longer would permit traffic to continue east on Pine Tree up to the four-way stop directly. Staying on Pine Tree Drive, but on the westbound, same thing goes. You would no longer be able to cross the traffic, which is one of the major problems with that whole approach. You would continue straight to the connector where the mailbox is and make a left there to continue west on Pine Tree Drive. Same thing, I mean, the same movements hold true with Banana River Drive eastbound. You know, if you wanted to go from there to get on to westbound Pine Tree, you would use the mailbox connector. And what they're doing is they're proposing, basically, essentially it's a barrier to isolate the traffic, to keep it from doing that crossover movement. It creates effectively a little dead-end area for the two houses, the two remaining houses, east of the mailbox area on the south side of Pine Tree Drive. On this drawing, they've circled the striping that would essentially be removed. The black lines, the double lines, that would be a double yellow line that would divide the westbound and eastbound Banana River Drive traffic. If you were east on Banana River Drive approaching the four-way stop, once you got up close enough there, you can see there's a provision on this drawing for either in the left lane where you can go straight or left, or you slide over to the right lane, which they call that a slip lane, and then you'd be able to turn right and head towards the Ocean Breeze. There's a couple comments these are my comments that are on here from my review of the traffic report. There's a couple changes I would make to this, or I would want to see addressed by the traffic engineer. For instance, on the eastbound Pine Tree Drive, if they could eliminate that first stop bar there and stop sign, because you'd stop and then you turn left to head north through the little connector, and you'd stop again. So if they can eliminate that and just make that the dominant flow of traffic on Pine Tree, then it should work just fine, I think. The stop bar and stop sign for the westbound traffic on Pine Tree for those two homes, obviously it's just two houses, minimal traffic, and they would just have to yield to the oncoming traffic on Pine Tree Drive. The mailbox most likely would have to go bye-bye because we don't want people parking there when you have, now that's going to be a primary area of traffic for those traveling onto or away from Pine Tree Drive. So we'd have to find a different place for that, a different home. From a maneuverability standpoint, this is something we're looking into, but we're going to reapproach the traffic engineer about looking at, it's a software you put on this stuff, it's called Auto Turn. And they can plug in the length and the type of fire truck apparatus. That was one of my main concerns, was the ability for that truck to make effectively a U-turn in some circumstances, or kind of an S-turn. So if they were, for instance, westbound on Banana River Drive, and they needed to turn left to get on Pine Tree, and then an immediate right on Pine Tree, they have to get to the fire station and load from the south end of those bays. That's the only direction they can load in. So that's a tricky maneuver as well. So in other words, you put the software on this drawing, and it shows the front and rear wheel tracks on it, and it'll tell you whether or not it can fit in that space or not. So if you had a car parked there, not parked, but at that stop bar at the connector road, say that, I was driving and I wanted to go from Pine Tree over to Banana River, I'd pull up to that stop sign, stop bar, but if by chance the fire truck needed to come through there and make that U-turn, obviously I don't think there's a possibility they could make it through a 12-foot space. I don't think they could do it physically. So they'd be stuck sitting out there in traffic, and then you'd have another mess on your hands. So that's the primary concern that I had, and that's something we're going to study more on, to get a better answer on that. So there's a chance that connector may need to move west from where it is now. I don't know how far west, As you can see, the farther to the west you go, the wider that area becomes, and it probably needs to be widened a bit as well to accommodate that. But we don't know what the answer is to that just yet. How big, where does it need to move, how far does it need to move? But I think that's likely something that will have to happen. But we don't know until we see the results. So that's the plan right now. This is what's the recommendation from the traffic engineer. We don't have costs on this yet. That's something we're also trying to come up with, is the cost. Obviously, if that connector has to move west, that's going to escalate the cost quite a bit to do that. With rebuilding a chunk of road to be able to do that, there's trees, landscaping, we try to squeeze between if at all possible, of course. As it's currently laid out, without that shift, it's a relatively inexpensive project because it involves removal of striping and placing the PVC, what they call lane delineators, to prevent traffic from crossing over, and some signage. So it's not a huge cost item as it stands right now on this paper. So that's where we are with this right now. We'll talk about it a little bit on council here, and then I know there's somebody here who wants to come up and speak on this. Actually, why don't you go ahead and do so. Mr. Kobe? Coming up, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Larry Covey. I live at 1108 Banana River Drive. And my question is, we had this issue a few years back, and it was a resident issue that brought it before the council before. And if I understand right, it's a resident issue that brought it in again. My question is, we paid for a study back then, and we paid for another study now. Why are we doing it twice?
So what happened before was actually, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, John, on this, I believe Brevard County Traffic Engineering Department provided, they did an overview of it, and they provided some recommendations for it, and we confined it, I believe, we confined it to what kind of striping and signage changes could we make, and we limited it to that. So this is a different animal. It's more of a, okay, what's wrong with this? What can we do to fix this, to best fix this?
I don't recall it exactly that way, but that was back in the past. The other thing is, if you move west that road, I've lived in the house when that retention pond, the water retention, or not pond, but where they sloped it all in there, and it has taken, I used to get water all the way up halfway up my front yard, and that now is there, and I don't get water up to my sidewalk. So I mean, what do you have a plan for doing something about the water retention?
No, I understand, and again, I want to be clear, we don't know the answer to this yet. I just simply raised it as a concern. I work with this kind of thing quite a bit, and it was, the first thing I saw was, I didn't feel like this was adequate enough. Now, it could be that they come back and say, well, you don't have to move it per se, but you need to widen it. You know, widen it, we'll have lane, and a striped, what they call a gore area in the middle. So it's all pavement so that a fire truck can drive over that part there, but it would be striped, it would diagonal striping on it to keep people from, or discourage people from, being in that area of the pavement. So it may be as simple as adding pavement to it. I don't know. Until we see the results of this and get more recommendations from the traffic engineer, we just don't know the answer to that. Now, as the second part of your question is about the stormwater retention area that's there. I get it, I understand. That would have to be dealt with as well. We would have to potentially look at what could we do to that stormwater retention area to replicate the same storage volume that it currently has. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can do it with side slopes, you can steepen them slightly. There's a number of ways to do that. So that's a little bit in the future, if this moves forward, that's getting more into the engineering world. But that's something, yes, we absolutely would have to look at that.
And the other comment I have is, if people read the signs and yield where they're supposed to, that intersection works extremely well.
I don't disagree with you, but I've also been, every person here in council and probably all of you out here, you've had your close calls, and I know I have.
I've had people yell at me, yeah.
I've had people flipping me off, and I'm doing the right thing. They're cutting across, and, you know, from Banana River, cutting across the Pine Tree, and I'm like,
You know who I am?
so I understand, you're right. It's like the roundabout out of Vieira. If everybody follows the signs and the pavement markings, it functions beautifully.
My concern is we're putting 2 stop signs on Banana River and 50 feet of each other. Because you stop at Osceola and then you're gonna stop right there at the pass-through. And you're gonna, on a school morning, the traffic backs up down Pine Tree east because of kids crossing there. And if you're gonna have another stop sign coming up there, I'm just wondering if we're looking at the traffic, the effects to traffic when they do, if they do decide to go this way. Because I think it will make traffic worse.
They did actually, I believe in the analysis, they did include a queuing study, queuing data, to determine if there was sufficient queue length available for the cars during those peak times in the morning, particularly in the morning. And they found that it had adequate queuing for the vehicles. Now, I'm just telling you what the report says.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So I think I've said my piece. My piece is on the paper. It's written on the paper. So, Deputy Mayor Dyer.
So I believe that, the traffic study is more, it's a recommendation of what should be done. We're not bound to it, but it'd be prudent to make those changes. I personally don't like blocking off the Pine Tree. I think it'll cause further issues, future issues, inconvenience to homeowners. Being a fireman, I think about, response times, added wear and tear, vehicle lane obstruction. I know that with the current design, the fire trucks are going to be exiting the north end, but what about down the road, future, backup, anything could happen. I think the study shows that some sort of change or modification needs to happen at that triangle. Personally, I don't like closing off that road. I don't. I think, creates an issue for that resident on the homeowner, day-to-day deliveries increase, time, inconvenience, and there's just no flow with the current design, in my opinion. I mean, potentially moving that stop sign that's west of that cut through, that's going on Pine Tree going east to that last driveway there, and then potentially adding another stop sign on Banana River right before the triangle. I don't know if that would suffice or solve some of these problems, but I don't like closing off that road.
Okay. Councilman Ronnie.
I agree with what Mr. Clovey said. If everyone did the right thing, it would work great, but it doesn't. People don't do that. I think something does. It's an awkward, as we all know, it's just an awkward way to drive up there. I'm always looking over my shoulder. But I also don't like the idea of closing off Pine Tree to get over there. Did you say that what they basically did was swap the signs wasn't that easy?
No, that's a resident that came up in one of the prior meetings suggested flipping the yield signs and making Banana River be the dominant run as opposed to Pine Tree. Because when you're coming east on Banana River, you have to yield to the eastbound Pine Tree. That's an incredibly hard thing to do with my neck, I know that.
Yeah, you can't turn.
I mean, you have to literally turn your whole body, and it's not safe. You're looking completely away and you're going forward. And there's been a number of times where I've had this, the next thing I know, I see somebody right next to me, and
Where'd they come from?
I messed up, but I couldn't see them. I literally couldn't see them. So I think that was the thought process behind the person that appeared before us and said, hey, what if that was flipped and you changed the dominant run? And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. And it would be at a minimum, that would be a good thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Diorio.
So Mayor Nickel did a very nice job of evaluating this particular drawing and shared his comments, which I think are very well thought out. A couple of the concerns I have, if you're looking at the map and if you're on eastbound Pine Tree Drive, and there's no, I mean, whether there's a stop sign there, the first stop sign that you come to, if you're heading east on Pine Tree Drive, just right at the location of the Pastel Road, people are still going to drive straight. And if they're, before they figure out that they can't do that, but there's going to be a pretty often instance where people are going to continue to drive straight on that road, and with those lane delineators in the way, they're going to be turning around in these two people's driveways, pretty often, right, pretty regularly. And so having that lane delineator, I think, and this is consistent with Deputy Mayor Dyer's comments, blocking that off doesn't seem to be a good solution either, for not only aesthetic reasons, but also for the incidence of these two homeowners, their driveway access to the road, and then very likely the frequent mistake makers driving past that, thinking they can continue to go straight, and then having to turn around. So I think those are some of the issues, not to mention, I would imagine there might be an aesthetic issue to this as well, but you make a good point about the fire engine access on that connector road being problematic currently. So I know we're not deciding on anything now, but it's good to have this discussion, because I think there's a lot going on in this intersection. And there's no easy solution. I think it's brought up before by Mr. Covey, who, in my personal experience, he has a lot of experience drawing lots of straight lines and connecting things together. So he and I used to work together, so I know that. But I think these are all really good points. This is a problematic intersection. It has been since I've lived here, and I've even gotten pulled over by a police officer one time for not yielding the right-of-way. And I pointed out to the officer, there's a yield sign pointing in both directions. And when I pointed that out to him, he looked at it and said, "Oh, yeah, you're right." So everybody was told to yield to everybody else, so you could see that being an issue. So anyway, I know that wasn't any kind of resolution in those comments, but it was, I think that, this is going to be a challenge to resolve if we're able to really do so. Thank you.
Councilmember Nutt.
I don't like anything on this, period. So this all stemmed from the complaint of which way we wanted to be able to physically be able to yield, safely. Like you mentioned about the neck, and that's right. When I'm having to yield to Pine Tree off to the right, me turning that way to see, but it's much easier for me to see from the driver's side and yield to the left. And that's what I thought we were trying to accomplish by doing that. That's where this whole thing came into play. So with that being said, that's the only thing I would like to see have done, and possibly better signage from coming east going west on Banana before they turn onto Pine Tree that really strongly states that they have to yield to oncoming traffic. And that's it. That's all I can see, that I wouldn't see any changes. Other than that, nothing, because I would hate to see this resident here have anybody have to turn around in their driveway so often. Plus, not just that, the fire trucks. Now we got school buses are gonna have to reroute as well.
Amazon?
Yeah, it's just, this is just excessive and it's ridiculous. So I prefer sticking to the simple plan that Mayor, you had brought up originally about the yielding, and it just makes more sense to yield to the left instead of to the right.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and my only, to Councilman Riorio's concerns, it's a valid concern. You have people continuing forward. That's probably the reason why they, come to think of it, that's probably the reason why they proposed that first stop sign, as you're heading east. You're just kind of stopping. They have dead end signs shown and stop sign and all that. So, yeah, that would probably, I'm assuming that traffic engineer is going to come back and say, well, this is why it's in place, and I get it, it's a stop, and then you're going to go and stop again. And that just makes it a little choppy, of course, and a lot of people are going to roll through that, I'm sure. Yeah, it's not, it's far from perfect. The situation's not perfect. And yes, it was originally, brought up about the concern about which should yield to whom on the eastbound, whether it be Banana River or Pine Tree. But it was also a broader discussion of just what a kind of a mess that whole intersection and that approach is. Very, very difficult to solve.
But it's our mess in our city. We're very familiar with it.
I understand.
Basically a landmark in a way.
Right? Yes, it is. It's, as our former city manager used to call it, malfunction junction. And I think that's pretty accurate.
And the financial aspect comes into play. I don't want to spend it.
Oh, yeah, it's and like I said, I kind of said, if we start getting into moving that connector, then the cost starts going up considerably to do so. So, yeah, I have my reservations about it, but I have a tendency to also put on a more of a, engineering mindset on this, and from a functional standpoint, aside from the potential of people continuing down on a dead end and having to turn around, that happens no matter where you are at a dead end, people will do that. Aside from that one item, it would clean up that whole traffic movement in that area, but I'll leave it at that. So I guess what it comes down to here is this is an action item. So the question becomes, to me, is do we want to, kind of two parts to this. One is, do we want to see what the traffic engineer has to say about potentially shifting that connector further to the west end? Or actually, I'm sorry, do we want to get with the traffic engineer to have him put the appropriate software turning template on this to see if it needs to shift and how far it needs to shift to make it work? If so, then do we want to, are we still willing to consider these modifications? But if the answer is flat out no to the modifications and nobody wants to close off Pine Tree Drive, well, then there's no point in, to me, getting with the traffic engineer to explore the whole issue of the fire truck. And whichever way we go is fine. I just, I think that's something, the first question is, do we want to entertain this or some form of this type of thing to cut off Pine Tree Drive and to reroute it, I should say, in some fashion similar to this. So,
Since it's an action item, but the way you're asking it, is that a consensus?
Yes.
Is that you're asking? My answer
we're
is
still
no.
giving direction to staff.
So I agree that I do kind of like the character of the triangle. It's iconic to the harbor. I would not want to block off that road. Maybe a potential flashing yellow on the Banana River Drive going east right there at the triangle. But other than that, I would like to just keep it the same.
Can we make some type of a recommendation that we come back to something that we can actually have an action item on that does shift which way we yield instead of the way it is currently? Which it just seems more, it's just common sense. It just makes more sense.
So let's see if we can get to a feel for
This.
Yes, first, which is the fundamental is the blocking of
Yes, sir.
Pine Tree Drive.
I understand.
So sounds like Adam's a no, you're a no. Susan, she's
I'm a no.
And you're a no, and I can be a no because I'm kind of, I see the merit to it, but then again, I see the aesthetic of it and the inconvenience potentially and all that. And it could, and this isn't without confusion as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to have its own set of confusion, might be a little different, a little less, but, so at this point, we're basically saying no to the recommended changes. So really, the only thing that's left is, I do want to push for an endorsement from the traffic engineer about switching, the potential to switch the yield scenario. so that the eastbound Banana River Drive traffic is the dominant run, and the eastbound Pine Tree approaching the intersection has to yield to that traffic. I firmly believe that's the way to go.
Yes.
But we need the traffic engineer's input. Not only do we need the input on whether it's a yes or a no, it's okay, what kind of, you should have temporary signage to alert people that there's been a change. Because everybody, most of us follow these signs and the rules, and we kind of know them, but there's plenty of people that come through here that have no clue, and it's just a mess. But even the folks that live here are going to need something to alert them that there's been a change. So highlighted sign, flags, or what have you, to do it.
When this was done last time, was there signage put up for the change? Obviously, there's the yield signs going west on Banana River weren't there.
Yes, there were signage added. Chief, you can chime in anytime you want, but
I didn't recall.
there were signage added, striping changed. You know, it was relatively minor changes to it. It didn't really change the functionality of the intersection or the approach. It didn't do a lot for us, I don't think.
We can put up a signboard if they do make this change to kind of alert people, and we can do some stuff out there to help.
Okay. So,
Like, what is your recommendation? You deal with this so much with people there.
Just listen on we've had 0 accidents out there. So, I mean, we haven't had a lot of accidents out there. Yes, I understand maybe some near misses. And like you guys said, everyone that lives here kind of knows about it. We just have 0 accidents there in 11 years I've been here.
okay.
John, how long you been here?
23 years old.
Any accidents at that intersection?
I think no.
There's been one that was at the actual intersection that took out the fire.
That was on Osceola.
Yeah.
It wasn't related to the
Correct,
road.
not at all.
So,
But that's it.
Okay, so consensus is no to the suggested improvements from the traffic engineer, but to also have a discussion with the traffic engineer relative to changing the yield situation for eastbound traffic on Banana River Drive and Pine Tree Drive. Okay, there's your consensus. All right, item 10D, authorization to dispose of surplus fixed assets. City Manager Cobb.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Staff requests authorization from the City Council to dispose of items that exceeded their useful economic lifespan, including the 2019 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor Vehicle, 11 police radios, 4 office desks, a pool centrifuge, and pool covers. And staff recommends City Council find the continued use of said items to be uneconomical and inefficient in serving the useful function, and that the City Council declare said fixed assets as surplus and authorize their disposal.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone in council have any comments?
There's no comments. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the disposal as the city manager stated.
Second.
A motion by Deputy Mayor Dyer, second by Councilmember Ronnie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, item 10E, 2026 City Manager Evaluation Instrument. So we need a copy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as I approach my 4th anniversary with the city, my employment agreement requires an evaluation by City Council. Last year, I believe 2 members of the City Council expressed somewhat unhappiness, might be the word to use, with some of the questions in the instrument that, based on the ICMA model evaluation form, had been used in prior years. City Clerk Nikki Gold had sent out an email requesting specific items to possibly be changed, and we received 2 responses that conflicted with each other. And so not being a mind reader of how 5 people would collectively view this, I put this on the agenda for y'all to discuss how you want to proceed. There is always the option that if you want to take more time or consider other instruments, that this could be tabled. In full disclosure, Ms. Gold, in her due diligence, has gathered copies of other cities' forms, and there's no one form that's used by everybody. So you could spend a lot of time digging into this, or however you choose to proceed.
Okay.
I did put in front of you, I believe, the 2 sets of comments we received from you and Councilmember.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my concerns really had to do with, when I read, there's a couple of sections in the review criteria that, like section 7, and I don't have that in front of me, but
Yes.
Yeah, there's some, what appear to be, some internal performance type of items. For instance, the city manager's interaction with, I believe it's staff or department heads. To me, we're really not privy to that per se. You know, we see a little bit of it here, but day to day, we don't see that. So that was my main comment on it, was that for the things that we aren't truly, I don't know that we're qualified to judge that, is all. So it's a light comment in that, I mean, I can judge it, but you know, it's not something that is based on any real observations per se. So that was my main issue with those 2 sections. I think section 8 was similar, and it had some operational stuff that we aren't necessarily exposed to. I'm not trying to make a big issue out of it, but it is something that we were asked to do, is look into the actual evaluation form itself. So, Councilmember Dyer, do you have any comments, questions, concerns? Anything?
I'm okay with it, the current form. The recommendations make sense that you're referring to in section 7 and 8. I really have no input on this one.
Councilmember Ronnie?
Well, I certainly didn't want to go against what you were saying.
No. That's what we're here for.
I guess I just feel with 7 and 8, we do see John interact with staff, so that's where I was coming from. I understand what you're saying, and I don't think it's a big deal to go, if you want to switch it, that's great. If not, I do feel like we see him quite a bit with staff, and perhaps have some kind of a handle on things.
Councilmember York?
I remember when this came up last year during the evaluation for the city manager, and actually I wasn't on the city council then, but I was able to speak at the meeting. And one of the things that I remember from that meeting were the comments that Mayor Nickel made then, and he is making the same comments today. And that is that it is difficult, and I would agree with Mayor Nickel that we don't see, even though we all love and adore John and the job that he does, we don't see his interaction with the staff very often. And so it is somewhat of an unfair category to evaluate his performance by. And in those cases, I supervise a lot of people. I've supervised a lot of people in the past. You have standard forms for filling out and doing these evaluations. And generally, when you have these sections or criteria that you're judging somebody by that you really can't, you kind of default to the highest score, and you write comments regarding that. So that's a long-winded way of saying I concur with what Mayor Nickel has said regarding the appropriateness of these sections of the evaluation. However, if they stayed in there, it wouldn't affect necessarily how I would evaluate it one way or the other.
I have issue with 7 and 8 as well, because I think it's unfair to John for us to grade him on that when we don't have this full spectrum of being able to assess that criteria. With that, I mean, with that being said, I think, like I said, it would be unfair. And I agree with the mayor. But this takes nothing away from you, John. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I do see what you do with the staff, but not on a continuous basis in order to give you a proper rating. Other than that, you're just shy of walking on water in my eyes. So I just want to make sure that maybe there's something we can come up with that is fair for us to rate you on.
So I have an idea perhaps, and I don't recall, I think it's just tallied up. You take all the sections, and if you score 5 being the best, or whatever, on each one, and there's 8 sections, so it's 40 points. Can we change the scoring to where it's an average? So an average of each section. So in other words, one section you score a 4.8, and another one you score this, and so on, and you add up. So if I decide that I'm not comfortable with 7 and 8, we still leave the form alone. I'm not comfortable with 7 and 8, then I don't put any rating out there. But you still have this average. It doesn't affect your average. So if I put zeros down there, it doesn't hurt you. You know, I have to be cognizant, each one of us would have to make sure we don't put, a 1 or something like that down. It's just, you don't put anything down. And then it's just, your scoring is based on your average for each section. And those are actually, yes.
My thought would be, you have a 1 through 5, but you also have a 0. Insufficient knowledge. This way, you got it covered. You don't have to change the form if it's...
But you don't want to capture the mathematical error.
I don't want to do a total points, though.
No, but I'm saying with you use the average, though, and that 0 counts as nothing. Towards it. So, but at least the form stays and you're responding to the form 0. With
average of the sections
insufficient
never
knowledge.
It's exactly how you rated it last year.
Right, I did. I left it out.
Yeah, and it's still tallied.
I was like, it's not against you at all. I'm just simply
And
not
it's still
comfortable with
tallied
it.
well, so.
Okay. So that is a consensus item. Or John, I'm fine. You're good. Okay. So we'll implement minor change to that, just to the scoring. All right, next is public forum. Does anyone out there in the vast audience wish to come up and speak?
I think, just in regard to, or John.
Can you come up and say your name and address? Sorry.
I'm a really loud talker, so you should probably can hear me.
That's all right. Name and
I'm
address,
Caroline.
3 minutes.
Oh,
You can do it after if you really want to, it's fine.
oh, this is not my fault. This delay is not my fault. So my name is Caroline Vincent at 942 Flotilla Club Drive. I just had a question. If you have 2 zeros for poor John's, not poor John, lovely John, his average, if you put 2 zeros in there, it's going to decrease. You're saying an NA.
The average would only be applied to those sections that are actually scored.
That's it. I just, I know it's late, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm okay with math. Then
They'd be removed from the calculation.
got it, removed from the calculations. Thank you. That's it.
All right, anybody else wish to speak? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Nutt, a second by
Which is a draw.
somebody.
Dyer.
Deputy Mayor Dyer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Wow.
The marathon. Whatever time.
Oh my God, the marathon.
I almost said it. Might not be a